Taking a peek at the infotainment system inside of the Honda Civic. This one is the Honda Civic Touring Hybrid, which is the highest available trim level, and that means that we're looking at a 9-inch screen. So the Civic does have two different infotainment systems that are available. So there's a smaller 7-inch screen or this larger 9-inch instead. This 9-inch is based off of the Google Android operating system versus the smaller screen is not. So if you want to walk through on that smaller screen, if it's available, check down in the description of this video for a walkthrough on that screen instead. But let's dive in and I'll show you everything that you need to know about this version. You've got some buttons along the outside of the screen, and these ones are locked into place. So you've got a home button, so regardless of whatever screen you're on, you can push the home button to get back home. You've got this back button, and the back button, as you dive into deeper pages, you could push the back button to essentially go one page back or back to your home screen. There's a volume rocker there, so you can push in order to turn the audio on or off. You've got a volume rocker there, and then you can change between all of your available stations. So if we go this way, you can see here we're essentially acting as a seek button there. And then, so we've got our seek button that's available here, but then on the steering wheel, you've also got your arrow pad along the left-hand side, and you can use that pad in order to be able to change between all of your available presets. Straightforward. And then you've also got these buttons on the screen as well. So you've got a few of these that are also locked into place. I'll show you how to customize it in a second. You've got whatever current radio station's going on, along with your current connection level. If you've got a phone on the wireless charge pad, you'll see that icon pop up there. And then you've also got this, which is going to give you the option of adjusting out and changing user profiles. A big benefit there is that if you've got multiple people driving the vehicle, you'd be able to change and add in multiple profiles. And the big benefit there is that if you have your phones connected, if you've gone and searched for addresses, if you've got different things set up, so all of your different settings, you can lock it into your individual profile. It's pretty useful if you've got multiple people driving the vehicle. And then when you're in this Google operating system, you can also password protect it using a PIN, which will show you as we dive deeper into the screen. There's also your current time along the top, which you can push in order to get to this other clock view instead. Hit the menu button in order to change out date and time or different clock faces. But back home, you've got these icons as I was mentioning. Now, if you do a push and hold on any of the icons, so this one is always going to be in place, and that's the voice assistant. But these ones can all be customized. So let's say if you don't care about power flow or your trip counters, maybe you wanted to have AM or FM radio there instead, you could just do a button push in order to be able to overwrite any of these options. And same idea, so you can overwrite any of these things if you'd like to. So if you wanted power flow back, you wanted your vehicle settings, trip computer, etc., you've got the flexibility of adjusting any of these bottom 5. You then push back in order to lock your changes into place for these ones. You can also customize the layout of these icons. Same idea, you're just going to do a button push and hold. It's going to bring you to this screen. Once it's there, you can then push and hold. Once it's become loose, you can then drag it around onto different pages if you wanted to customize it that way instead. Once you've got those set up the way that you'd like, you're just going to hit back in order to lock those changes into place. Straightforward, and let's dive in. I'll show you what you need to know here. So this is the Google operating system, and the big benefit there is that you've got Google Maps built in. So you've got the option of searching by GPS coordinates here, so you can go by latitude first, longitude second. You can search for point of interest icons as well. So it's nice and Canadian of me. So we've got Tim Hortons there. And once you find whatever location you want to get to, all you're going to do, select, you can start, see if there are different routes that are available. So if you wanted to take a different route out, you could. You can avoid things on the route. So if you wanted to avoid highways, toll roads, or ferries, you could do that. And then once you're happy with whatever route you'd like, you could add in an additional stop or start. So let's say maybe you wanted to add in a gas station along the way. You've got the flexibility to do it. So if we were to go gas station, you've got some different options. So you can kind of choose one along your route if you'd like to. So let's stop at this Petro-Canada because it's along the way. Let's add the stop in. And then you've got this hamburger icon. So maybe you wanted to stop at Tim Hortons afterwards or first, whatever the case may be. You can adjust it out this way. Once you're happy, you just hit done, and then you can start from there. And as you can see, we are fully started. You've got Google Maps built in, and we are searching. Now, on top of that, while you can look at your Google Maps screen this way, inside of the cluster screen, if you use the little rocker switch here, you can drop down into your little map mode there, and that's going to give you not full mapping cluster, but your turn-by-turn directions inside of the cluster screen instead. So you've got your turn-by-turn, which way you have to go next. Kind of useful. From here, back on the screen, you can hit this icon in order to look at different route options if they were available, search for additional addresses, stops along the way, or you can exit out in order to remove the either next stop or fully exit navigation instead. We search, and then as you can see there, the addresses that we've searched for are now back in, and we can hit back there. You could hit this icon if you wanted to be able to search using your voice. You can hit the voice command prompt if you wanted to search using your voice that way instead. You can hit this icon if you wanted to show satellite view, 3D building views, and things like that. So you've got options, and then avoiding different things on the route as well. You can hit this in order to mute out all notifications if you just wanted to get alerts, or both. You can change up your heading view this way instead. So if you wanted to be north, up, direction view, etc., and then you've got full pinch to zoom capabilities. And since this is a Google device, you've also got the flexibility of hitting this and you can sign into your Google account. The big benefit there is that if you've been on your phone searching for addresses on Google Maps and you're logged into your Google account, when you log in this way, it's going to pull up any addresses that you've searched for right on the screen as well. Pretty useful, but that's using navigation in the ride. It's very straightforward. Next up is adding in a phone. So as of right now, we have no phones connected. So what you're going to do on your phone, just go into your Bluetooth and you're waiting for Honda Civic to pop up. There we go. And pin numbers match up, so let's go ahead and pair. Do you want to allow contacts and favorites to sync up? This is not my car, so I'm saying no to that one. And a few seconds in, we are now connected. So you can stop here if you want to. You're connected over Bluetooth, so you can make phone calls, and then you can also stream audio this way if you'd like. But one of the nice things about this screen is that you've also got CarPlay, but it's wireless. So Android Auto, Apple CarPlay is wireless inside of the screen. It is also backwards compatible, so if you wanted to use a USB-C cable, you've got the flexibility to do it. You're just making sure you're plugging yourself in down the center there. But let's go ahead and enable wireless CarPlay. On your phone, you want to make sure here, use CarPlay with the Civic. Let's go ahead and use CarPlay. Now, if it's not even getting you to this step where you can connect, check down in the description for this video for some common CarPlay fixes that you can try if it's not connecting to your screen. But you can see here, we're fully connected. You could do this little split screen instead. Back into a full screen, you've got your current time and then connection level, which map was open last, which audio application was open last, which miscellaneous application was open last, your battery level, or this little icon view instead. Then you've got your little home screen. So home screen versus icon view. The home screen here is fixed into place, so there's no customizing the layout, but you've got Apple Maps, Google Maps, and Waze that you can use inside of the screen as well. My go-to is Waze. I'm a big fan of the app. Big reason why is because as you, let's go this way, zoom in and out. So as people notice things on the map, or on their drive, so let's say if there's construction going on, if there are hazards, if there's a speed trap and things like that, people are pretty good at letting you know so that you can slow down as necessary, and you can mark things off on the map. So if you notice that there's a speed trap or there are hazards, crashes, etc., you can let other drivers know. So that one's going to come down to a matter of preference, but it doesn't matter if it's Google Maps, Apple Maps, or Waze. On the Apple CarPlay side of things, there's no pinch to zoom capabilities whatsoever. You can hit back home there, but there are a ton of different apps available. Hoopla is a library app. Live One's a radio app. You could listen to your podcasts instead if you wanted to. So a lot of flexibility, but CarPlay does not support video playback as of yet. So strictly going to be music apps through this device, which is what it is. Now, you've also got the flexibility of customizing this a little bit. So let's say if you wanted to change out the wallpaper to customize it, you could. So it's subtle changes that are available, so nothing crazy, but you can adjust the appearance out. There's driving focus as well. Straightforward. Then, if you do a short button push on the steering wheel, so the voice prompt, that's going to be for your built-in assistant. But if you do a longer push and hold instead, that's going to activate your Siri assistant. So short button push is the factory assistant for the screen. Longer button push is your Siri assistant instead. And you've got the flexibility of customizing these icons a little bit if you'd like to. All you're going to do is jump back into your settings on your phone. You're going to go General and then CarPlay. When you do that, you're just going to find your vehicle. You can forget it, but we're looking to customize. And customize here, you can just drag. So you're going to grab the little hamburger icon along the side, drag it to whatever position you want. So if you want a map app along the very top, you can change out the layout here. Anything with a minus next to it, you can also delete it from the screen as well. but it saves it along the bottom. So if you wanted to add it back in, you could. But let's say if you played around with this too much and you don't like the look of the layout anymore, on your phone, top right side, there's a reset. So you can go reset, reset, and that's just going to bring you back to the factory default layout there instead. So straightforward to use. And if you hop back home, you've got a few options. So you could jump into CarPlay a few different ways. So you've got your Apple CarPlay icon there. But remember these icons. You've got CarPlay along the outside here as well too. So you can just hot button push to get back into CarPlay that way. Straightforward. And then if you go into your general settings, connections, device connections, you've got the phone that we've connected. So you could disconnect from CarPlay that way if you want, if you just want to be connected over Bluetooth. Again, you can still make phone calls and stream audio that way if you don't want to be connected to CarPlay. And straightforward here, it's going to take a second to be able to disconnect. And let's continue, and you're set to go. If you click on the phone now, you can disconnect or you can completely delete it from the device. But it's that simple, setting up Apple devices inside of the Honda Civic. Setting up Android devices is the exact same process. So if you weren't on the screen, all you want to do, again, just get back to your connections. You're going to go General Settings, Connections, Manage Devices, and we're just going to go ahead and connect a new device. On your phone, you're just looking for Honda Civic to pop up again. There we go. PIN numbers match up, so let's go ahead and pair. Do you want to allow access to contacts and messages? Again, this is not my car, so I'm going to say no to that one. But you've also got Android Auto, which is wireless, again, inside of this screen. Same idea, backwards compatible with a USB-C cable. Starting Android Auto, and as you can see there, we are fully connected to Android Auto instead. So you don't have to connect to Android Auto, you can just go Bluetooth if you want to. But you've got your Android Auto screen with CBC News there. You can hit this in order to get to a little icon view instead. Back to the home screen, you've got your factory assistant. So since this larger screen is Google based, if you do a short button push, that's going to be, again, your assistant for the screen. Longer push and hold instead is going to be your assistant for Android Auto, so for your actual phone. It gets a little bit more complicated with those as you get into Android Auto, but it's straightforward at the same time. You could hit the map icon here. That's going to bring you into a full screen Google Maps instead. So if you wanted to have that available, you could. It's got full pinch to zoom capabilities though, unlike the iPhone side of things. And then Google Maps on your phone works the exact same way as it does for the screen assistant. So you can search for addresses. You can go here in order to be able to mark things off. You've got route options, change up your heading and things like that instead. You can again hit this to get to a little split screen. There are some other things along the very bottom of the screen. So you've got some basic icons, your connection, battery levels, things like that. And hitting this button brings us to a few other icons, but if you've got Waze installed on your Android device and it's not showing up here, check down in the description of this video for a little walkthrough where I explain how to add Waze to Android Auto. Then you've got the flexibility of customizing this layout a little bit. So on your device, you've got a few options here. You've got your Android Auto settings. So you're going to search for Android Auto, go into your Android Auto settings, and you've got a bunch of options, but we're looking for Customize Launcher. So what we're going to do here, Customize Launcher, and you've got all of your different apps that are available. So anything with a check mark next to it, you can remove it from the screen if you want to. You can also do a drag and drop in order to customize the layout. But it's not dynamic the same way it was on the iPhone side of things. So for these changes to come into effect, what you need to do, hop back home, go to your general settings, connections, devices. You're going to disconnect from Android Auto. You're going to reconnect to Android Auto. And we're reconnected. Hopping back into the icon screen, you can see here that the layout has now been changed. So it's not dynamic the same way it was on the iPhone side of things, but it's still easy enough to use. Back home brings us back to this setting. So again, if we go into our connections, device connections, you've got both phones that have been connected. So you can either be hooked up to Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, not both. But one nice thing is that if you've got multiple phones connected, you can set a priority. So if both phones are in the vehicle, it's who's it going to try to connect to first. You could then hit the option screen here for some basic options, but if you hit either of the phones, you could turn on Android Auto, go back to Bluetooth, or you could completely delete the device if you'd like. Same idea on the iPhone, we're going to go delete, delete, and we're now deleted. And it's that easy setting up Android and iPhone devices inside of this ride. From here, Hitting options again lets you turn Bluetooth off completely. So if you just don't want to use Bluetooth whatsoever, you can toggle it off, you can change your priority of device, or you can also change the vehicle name. So if you don't want it to be Honda Civic, if you want it to be Sally Civic or whatever the case may be, you can adjust it out from there. And then hitting back and back home brings us back to the home screen here. So next up, let's go ahead and dive into audio a little bit. So audio for your sources, you've got AM, FM, there's USB, Bluetooth audio, Alexa, etc. So if you had a USB stick with MP3s on it, strictly going to be USB Type-C, but you could plug yourself in that way, and you can easily switch between any of these options. So while that's loading, let's go to FM. You can tune to stations this way. So if you wanted to tune, you could. But one nice thing about the voice command prompt, 97.7 FM.
Got it. This is 97.7 FM.
You can easily change stations out that way instead if you'd like to. Then if you look along the bottom here, you can see all of our available presets. So there are 3 individual rows. If you wanted to be able to save a preset, you just tune to whatever station. You then push and hold in order to be able to save the station in. Now if you push and hold again, that's going to bring up this option. So you can either remove or replace. So if we remove it, it's deleted that preset. And that's the same with any of them. So if you wanted to save a preset, you just push and hold, or you could drag it around if you wanted to customize the order. So from here, push and hold in order to be able to remove or replace. But when you're on the screen, you push and hold again in order to be able to adjust them if you'd like. So if you wanted to change out the order, you could look at your station list. So if you're new to an area and you're not sure what stations are available, you could just kind of swipe through. You could do a refresh. Anything with HD is an HD radio. So that means that they broadcast digitally, which means you have more stations and it's typically more clear. Again, you could search for stations that way. You can seek this way instead. You've got your presets and hit menu to go into a series of different options here. And it's going to be the same for AM and for FM. So you've got all of your individual AM stations. You've got the station list, scanning, seeking, etc. We hop into USB, you've got your USB audio library there as well. So we're strictly going to be audio. This USB stick does have MP4 files on it, so video files, but you can't play videos through this screen yet. I'd love to see it. It's just not available at this time. But straightforward using media inside of the ride. If we hop back in again into menu, you've got a series of different sound settings. So if you wanted to adjust out your treble, mid-range, and bass, what I actually recommend, so let's just reset everything back to center. So what I recommend here is play one of your favorite songs. And while the song is playing, what I'd recommend is changing this out to something that suits you perfectly. In my experience so far, something like this tends to give pretty good audio inside of the Civic, but that's going to be a matter of preference. So like I said, play your favorite song, adjust these out until it sounds perfect for you. You can also change out, do you want it to be focused on strictly the driver, passenger, people in the back? You could do a finer focus this way instead, reset it back to the center. You can have it focused on the driver, on people in the back, or full vehicle if you'd like. Straightforward. And you've got your basics, so your artwork if that's available from the station, and then the RDS info would be the info down here. But that's using media inside of the ride. You've got your Google Assistant that way. You can hit the voice command prompt on the steering wheel, or you can say, "Hey Google," and that's going to bring up your assistant instead. Android Auto, Apple CarPlay are grayed out because I'm not connected to either phone right now. There's a trip computer available too. So you've got your current drive. So right now, the fuel economy is not the greatest because I'm sitting here doing an explainer video, but you can see different trip counters. So trip A versus trip B counters. You can hit the menu button here in order to have a few different options. So you can either reset your timing manually, and in order to do it, it's straightforward. So again, we're going to use this little rocker dial along the top there, and then you're just going to go to your fuel economy screen. Once you're in your fuel economy screen, you could then push and hold this button here if you wanted to be able to reset. So you could jump between your A versus B counter, push and hold, and that's going to give you the flexibility of resetting if you'd like to. But you've got options which are kind of neat. So you can either manually reset that way, or you can reset every time the car is turned off or when you're fully refueled. What I'd recommend if you're driving your Civic for business is to have one of these set to ignition off. At least that way, every time you start the car up, you'll have a fresh kilometer reading, but it's going to be a matter of preference. And you can delete your entire trip history if you'd like to. Hopping back, since this is the hybrid version of the ride, you've got your hybrid gauges here. So as you start to drive, you're going to notice what your current fuel economy is. And then as you start to drive here, you're going to notice that the engine is going to have a little line that's driving and recharging up the battery as you go here. It's actually pretty cool the way it looks. Then you can see your total range based off of your current battery along with your current fuel level. You've got the Play Store that's available here too. All you have to do in order to use the Play Store is just sign in. Once you do, so it's going to say getting ready to sign in here. There we go. Just need to scan the QR code on your phone and it's going to pull up a Google page. So all you have to do is log into your Google account here. There we go. And after you've logged in, it's going to bring you up to this page. It'll take a second. And what I'm doing is I'm actually logging in to my Gmail account here. And a big benefit is that you could start downloading different apps right to the screen directly. So you could download YouTube Music. Waze is, again, one of my favorite apps. So you could install this if you'd like to as well. And it's going to take a second to do, but there are a boatload of different apps that are available. It's kind of nice. You do have to be signed in order to be able to download apps. So you do need a Gmail account. Alexa's available. You have to be logged into your Alexa account for it to work. And then there are a bunch of vehicle settings that are available here too. So starting off, you've got your driver assistant settings. So driver assistant, you've got a bunch of options here. So let's see the big ones here. Do you want to get beeps with the adaptive cruise control system? That one's been driving me nuts. Same thing with the lane keep assist beep. So if you start to veer over into another lane without signaling, it's going to beep at you. And then it can also move you back into your lane as well. But you've got your blind spot system here too. So there's a little blind spot monitor right inside of the side view mirror there. So that's going to highlight red when somebody enters the blind spot on either side of the vehicle. And with that monitor, do you want to get an audible alert as well as a visual? So do you want to get something on the side view mirror highlighting, letting you know? Do you just want to get the visual alert or do you want to get a chime as well? So you can go either or. Traffic sign recognition, do you actually want to show that? Yay or nay? That's going to show up in the cluster screen. Driver attention monitor. If you start to veer over too many times without signaling, eventually it's going to tell you that you should probably take a break. So start veering over too many times, you can get a tactile alert, which means you'll get a steering wheel vibration, or you'll get a little alert inside of the cluster, so an audible noise, and then a little steering wheel vibration as well. If you're going on long distance trips, I definitely recommend keeping that one on. And from here, there's meter setup, and we've seen a few of these. So you've got your temperature display. Do you want to be plus or minus a few degrees? You could adjust out when you're going to be timing out your trips. So again, manual reset. Let's see here, rear seat reminder. So when you go to turn the vehicle off, do you want to get a little reminder in the cluster screen letting you know? And then your turn-by-turn display, and that's the one where if you've got a route going inside of the cluster screen, you're going to get your turn-by-turn notifications on that screen. And then how do you want to measure your speed or units here? Do you want to be in either miles or kilometers per hour? Oop. And as you can see there, as we navigate through to either miles or kilometers, it adjusts what's going on inside of the cluster screen there. And back, key access setup gives us a bunch of options. So when you go to unlock the doors using the fob, is it just the driver's door that becomes unlocked or all doors? So nice safety setting there. Let's see, when you go to lock the vehicle, when you lock, do you get any sort of flash? Do you get a beep? Do you want remote start from the key fob to work, yay or nay? And then lockout prevention, do you want to make sure if the key fob gets locked in the vehicle that the doors aren't going to automatically lock on you as well? Lighting setup with auto high beam. So high beams in general are an interesting one inside of the Honda world. So if you look at your beams there, in the auto mode, we've got the auto high beam. So what that means is that if the vehicle recognizes high beams are needed, it turns them on automatically. If there's somebody oncoming, it'll turn them off. But when you're in the auto mode, there's no way to permanently lock out your high beams. You can flash them, but in order to lock them out, you have to go into the bottom headlamp mode instead. You then push away to turn on your high beams, pull towards you to turn them off, or flash them out as necessary. Then you've got a few other lighting options. So how long do you want your interior lights to stay on for when you lock the vehicle? And then your headlight timer is the same thing. So when you go to lock the vehicle, do the headlamps just turn off automatically or do they stay on for up to 60 seconds? So if you want a little bit of light as you walk to your front door, you've got that available. There are some options for your door. When do you want the vehicle to automatically lock the door? So do you just never want it to automatically lock when you shift from park or as you start to drive? When do you want the door to unlock? Then there's also walk-away lock. So if you've forgotten to lock the door and you walk away from the vehicle with your fob on you, it'll automatically lock the door for you. And then there's also this one, which is a cool one. So rolling the windows down using the fob. So let's hop outside and I'll show you how a few of these things work. In order to remote start, it's also straightforward. So you're just going to push the lock button and then that circle button within a few seconds. So you're going to go lock, push and hold. See us light up a little bit there. It'll take a second and then it'll start up. It's a little quiet because it's the hybrid. In order to cancel the remote start, push and hold that circle button again, and that's remote start. And then there's a neat little key fob trick that you can do. So what you're going to do is push the unlock button twice, but on the second press, you're going to hold. So you're going to go 1, 2, and hold. Watch this. Down the windows go, all 4, and it's also opening up the sunroof. So that is a really useful process. I love it. I wish it was window up as well, but at least you can air things out if you need to. There are some basics for climate control. So when you go to remote start the vehicle, do you want your driver's passengers climate to turn on? Yay, nay, and at what levels? There's also an individual setting mode here as well. Now, you're only going to find the individual setting inside of the hybrid, so the highest available, so the Sport Touring Hybrid. And what that one is, it's actually going to be for your drive modes. You've got your little rocker switch down the middle here. So you could use this to go between different modes. So individual is strictly going to be in the hybrid, but you've got your eco mode, there's normal, sport, and then the individual mode instead. So the individual mode is where you've got the flexibility to be able to customize it. So what do you want your powertrain to feel like? Do you want it to be in a sport mode? Maybe you want to have sport steering and then sport cluster, but you just want to have everything else under econ. You've got the flexibility to do it. So you can adjust these settings out, again, strictly in the Sport Touring Hybrid, so the highest available trim. And then you've also got your engine oil life. So if you wanted to, you could reset all those items if you're changing oil out yourself. And back into some general settings. System info, you can adjust the date and time. So you can dive into the setting this way, or if you just hit the clock along the top there, you can also adjust the date and time that way instead. So there are a few different ways you can get to it. So you can adjust your day. These are grayed out because you're in auto. So if you deselect, you can then manually set the date and time if you'd like to. So let's turn that back on. That makes the most sense. Same idea with the time zone. So that's going to be an auto zone. But if you live somewhere where you straddle a time zone and it's constantly flipping you from one time zone to the other, you can permanently lock yourself into any of these time zones if you'd like to. And back, you've got your day format and then your time format. So do you want to be in that military time instead? So 12 versus 24-hour mode. You can change out your language for both the center screen here or for your cluster. So if you want your cluster to be in Spanish, but you want this display to be in English, you've got the flexibility to change that around. You've also got some basic about information. So if you wanted to see which version number you're on, so software version, etc., you could do a full factory data reset too. So if you're running into problems with the screen, you could do a full factory reset. There's a way to do a soft reboot as well. I'll show you that one towards the end of the video. You've got your connection screen available here. Privacy options. So if you wanted to share information with Honda, yay, nay. If you want to, normally I'd recommend disabling that one. It's going to be a matter of preference though. App permissions are available. There's infotainment system data. There's nothing, honestly, there's nothing exciting here except for deleting your profile or doing a full factory reset. So if you're selling your Honda, you can just do a full reset in order to bring everything back to the default instead. Options for your display, so you can adjust the brightness this way. You can change out your contrast levels and black levels, or turn the display off if you'd like. Button press to bring it back on. There are some basic sound settings, which we've already seen. Your sound volumes for individual things. So if you wanted your voice recognition volume to be lower, but your navigation volume to be up higher, or your call volume to be up high, you've got the flexibility of adjusting these out. Your camera is available there as well. So do you want to show your rear camera guidelines? Yay, nay. Do you want them to be fixed or dynamic? So if we go into reverse here, so you've got your fixed guidelines here, but because we've got dynamic enabled, as you rotate the steering wheel, you'll also see those dynamic guidelines showing up as well. So you can adjust these out. Do you want both of them? Yay, nay. Cross traffic monitor. As you go to back up, if somebody's coming perpendicular, so from the left or the right side, it's going to let you know of a potential collision. Voice control is here. So your default app is going to be your Google Assistant. You can log into Alexa, or you can have no assistant. So you can see there that the assistant has disappeared. So you could just go nothing if you'd like to, but I at least recommend keeping your Google Assistant turned on, unless you're an iPhone user and you want it to listen to Siri instead. There are some security options, and this is where you're going to create a profile lock. So if there are multiple people driving the vehicle, what I'd recommend here is definitely make sure that you've got some sort of a PIN or a password, at least that way from a general safety perspective. All of the addresses that you've searched for, all of the different presets that you have set up, things like that, would be locked behind a PIN or a password instead. And then you can clear credentials, do a security update if available. Look at some advanced Google settings. There's an ads manager here, a little troubling, but I've never seen an actual ad pop up in any Google device that I've reviewed so far, so any infotainment system. There are password managers available with some basic advanced settings, and honestly, for the majority of people, you're just going to want to leave this alone. So you've got different reset options down here as well. So if you wanted to reset your network, if CarPlay is not working properly, that's one thing that you could try on top of that. And moving back home, you've got your profile settings, so you can change your profile out if you'd like to. So if you've got multiple people driving, manage your profiles in different accounts as well. Bluetooth audio's there. You've got your USB as well. So if your phone is hooked up over Bluetooth, or if you have an iPod that supports Bluetooth capabilities, you can look at your Bluetooth audio that way. AM, FM, there are system updates that might be available. Adjusting your clock out. So you'll see a few of these things. You can access it a few different ways. So fully digital compass, you can change out your display mode. So if you wanted to adjust it out, your brightness that way, and then you can see all apps as well. So our home screen has all of these different apps available. If you wanted to not have certain apps, like maybe you just don't care about having your profile settings on the home screen or your system updates on the home screen instead. So if we go back home, those apps have now been fully removed from the screen here. So you can customize, and same idea, if you wanted to move these icons around, you've got the flexibility to be able to do it. And then back from there to lock everything into place. Let's say if the screen's giving you problems. So Android Auto, Apple CarPlay aren't working, it's frozen the screen out, you've installed an app and it's not working for you. You could easily do a soft reboot. All you're gonna do is push and hold the home button for 5 to 10 seconds, and eventually you're gonna hear a little boop. There we go. And you can either cancel this out, you can do a soft reboot, or you can enter safe mode instead. So safe mode is essentially going to temporarily disable any additional apps that you've installed, so you could delete them if that's the cause of the problem. But you could also just do a soft reboot instead. So that soft reboot is going to essentially clear out the cache inside of the screen. So it's not going to do a full factory reset. So it's a soft reboot. It's no different than you just doing a basic restart on your phone instead. So it takes a few seconds here in order to make that happen. And as that's going through, show you a few buttons down the center here too. So you've got your heated seat button. There's dual zone climate control, the ability of adjusting at your fan speed, toggle this on off. You've got your basic mode to go into your face, feet, etc. Front defroster, rear defroster, AC. You've got 2 power points down low as well. So the one on the left-hand side here is going to be for your data connection. The one on the right-hand side is going to be strictly for charging. So data on the left, charge on the right, with a 12-volt power point, and then the wireless charge pad. One neat thing about the wireless charge pad, you've got your button here, and you can actually turn it off. So if you don't want the wireless charge pad to actively be charging phones up, you've got the flexibility to do that. And now that the screen's rebooted, you can hit cancel in order to be able to finish up, and you're set to go here. Now, there's also the option of moving into diagnostic data. It's a little bit more advanced, but if you hit the home icon, power, and then the left seek button at the same time, push and hold that. There we go. We've essentially entered a dealer diagnostic screen. So you've got the flexibility of checking things out. You can look at smartphone information for Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. If you wanted to strictly have it for USB only, not wireless, you've got the flexibility to do that. After you make any changes here, I actually don't recommend making changes here unless you're okay with playing around with things. You could always do a full factory reset, but I recommend not doing things here. But if you have made changes, all you have to do is then push and hold that home button again in order to do a soft reboot. But that's how you enter the diagnostic screen, and that's everything that you need to know about the infotainment system inside of the Honda Civic.